We are beginning a unit on different types of stories, or tales. The unit will last several weeks and will cover folk tales, fairy tales, tall tales, Native American tales, fables, myths, and legends. This unit will meet several of the language arts curriculum standards for your grade level. The standards being covered will be listed at the beginning and end of each lesson, just as they are in class. These online materials are designed to support your classroom learning by reviewing what you will cover in class, helping you to make up lessons when you are absent, and offering extra practice in identifying the characteristics of each type of tale. To get the unit started, I will give a brief explanation of the different types of tales we will be studying. Let's start with folk tales. Folk tales have been around for hundreds of years. Originally, they were told out loud and passed down from one generation to the next. Eventually, they were gathered and written in books. Folk tales often feature talking animals like the ones in The Three Little Pigs, or the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood, or the Little Red Hen. They may start with a traditional phrase like "once upon a time" or "long ago in a kingdom far away." A second type of tale is the fairy tale. These also began as stories told orally and then were later written down. They are as old as folk tales but have one additional element: magic. It might be a magical being like a wizard or a fairy godmother. It might be a magical creature like a dragon or unicorn. Or it might be a magical item like a flying carpet or an invisibility cloak. Just because they are called fairy tales does not mean that there will be a fairy in every story. Popular tales in this group include Cinderella, Snow White, and the Frog Prince. One type of story that's considered very American is the tall tale. These are stories of individuals who are not magical, but seem bigger than real life, which is how they got the name, tall tales. Many of these stories are about a specific region of the U.S. For example, the giant logger named Paul Bunyan is supposed to be from the state of Maine. The famous cowboy, Pecos Bill, is said to have been from Texas. And Johnny Appleseed was born in Massachusetts. You will notice in these tales that they all take place during the early years of our country, while there were still frontiers and wild areas to explore and settle. Native American tales are traditional stories from the different tribes of Native Americans, or Indians. These stories are a type of folk tale that reflects the culture of the tribe and the region where the tribe lived at the time the stories were created. Here in Tennessee, we have many Cherokee stories because they have lived in this area since before settlers came here from Europe. Cherokee stories tend to have mountains, forests, and the animals we are familiar with, such as bears, deer, and rabbits. In contrast, the Navajo tribe from the Southwest has stories that reflect their location near desert areas and wildlife such as coyotes or horned toads. Fables are stories that teach a lesson, and they often end with the phrase, "The moral of the story is." Some of the most famous fables were written by a man named Aesop thousands of years ago. Many fables feature talking animals like those found in folk tales. The lessons in fables might be about kindness, fairness, not being greedy, or other behavior or manners. Myths are stories told about gods and goddesses and other supernatural beings. Most cultures have some type of mythology in their background. Some of the more popular mythical beings are the Greek and Roman gods and goddesses like those shown in the Percy Jackson books and films, or in the movie Hercules. Egyptian mythology has been used in films like Stargate, The Mummy, and The Scorpion King. And Thor and Loki from Norse mythology are in the popular Marvel movies. The last type of story or tale is the legend. One way to describe a legend is to say it's a story about something historical that we really can't prove. Famous heroes like King Arthur, Robin Hood, and Zorro are all from legends. Usually they are tales about a hero from a particular time in history who fought a terrible monster or enemy army, stood up to an evil ruler, or even united a kingdom. Some people also include stories about creatures such as Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster in this group, since the tales have been around for a long time, but we still don't have complete proof that they are true. So, each week we will look at an example of one type of story. There are usually many versions of these stories because they have been around so long. We may compare a few of the versions and then look closely at one in particular. We may also look at modernized or fractured versions of some stories. Many popular traditional stories have been remade lately so that we have movies like Ella Enchanted or Shrek. By the time we reach the end of this unit, you will be able to identify the different types of stories and their main characteristics.